Hello and welcome. I am Tricia from Club Scrap, and this is the Harbor Town Page Kit Workshop. I'm so glad you're here and you've decided to take this journey with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got my kit ready to go here. I've downloaded and printed my instructions. You don't need to do that. You could even follow along on a tablet or a computer screen if you happen to have a laptop handy. And then, of course, I'm using my accordion pocket file organizer. I recently saw a conversation on our private Facebook chat group, which you are welcome to join, by the way, discussing whether or not people use this organizer. And I just wanted to point out that this is an extremely useful little guy. We do not sell them made like this. We sell them as a kit. We have a starter kit and it includes a 2-ounce bottle of our bookbinding glue, the paper, the labels, all the fun things, and then a video tutorial where I will help you make this for yourself. It's not that hard. You might find it helpful to watch the video once and then make it, but if you don't have this yet, I do highly recommend it. It's going to come in super handy, and that just stays, that lip on the front of it is underneath your trimmer base, and the trimmer holds it vertically so you can stay organized as we trim all the pieces for 8 layouts at the same time. So next I'm going to set aside all of the goodies from the collection, and that includes the ribbon and the other embellishments. And now I have my paper and my photo mats. So let's start by filing the photo mats into the proper pocket. It serves as a nice warm-up for us for getting used to how the filing system works. And again, if you don't have that, no worries, just maintain 4 separate piles. Just takes up a little bit more space than this little system does. Okay, let's take 3 red photo mats. Here we go, red, 1, 2, 3, pocket number 1 and 2. And then take 2 yellow, 1, 2, those also go in pocket 1 and 2. Next up, we need 3 blue photo mats, 1, 2, 3. Those go in pocket 3 and 4. The remaining yellow in pocket 5 and 6. And next, we'll take the 3 remaining green photo mats and place them in pocket 7 and 8. I'm going to have you sort the paper into the order that we'll be using it. So I'm just going to grab the whole stack and hold it upright. And let's start out by finding the Sunny Sky print. That's this one with the sun in the sky. As we sort, I'm just going to have you put the printed things face down and then find a nice solid sheet of the yellow. So just 1 yellow, then 1 red, and 1 blue. So kind of hitting almost every color here except the green, I think. Okay, and then I want you to find from the Cutaparts, let's do this one that says always take the scenic route. It has this big banner across the bottom here, that one. And then the other Cutapart, and those will usually be found on the back of your collated stack. Deb always puts those in last. Okay, we have the border strips on this one. Life is Lovely. Okay, that'll be the next piece. Then find 1 more Sunny Sky print. So that's this guy, Sunny Sky, face down. And the other sheet of yellow. All right, dig that out here. Next up, 1 seagull print, put that face down, followed by a red plain. Then 2 of the green plains will be next. Finally, the last blue and the last seagull print, face down. Flip everything back over, stack it up nicely. And I typically like to put the trimmed papers to be trimmed on my left and my instructions on my right. That's just kind of how I set up my workspace. And we're going to begin with this Sunny Sky print. Nice simple cut here. Lift the blade all the way up. Make sure the paper's flush with that top guide on your trimmer base if you're using this guy. Love this trimmer. And cut at 5 3/4. So to find 5 3/4, I always look for the whole number first, which is 5. And then to grow the number to 5 3/4, I have to count 1, 2, 3 columns to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 5 3/4. Gather up those 2 pieces, and they're going to be used in layouts 3 and 4. So when I place them in the pocket, I just make sure I place it at an angle like this, so I can still see the pocket number on the left. Don't try to stuff the papers down into the pocket. Alrighty, now we're gonna move on to the yellow. Now, if you're just starting out and you're thinking, I can manage this pace just fine, great. If you're already feeling like I'm moving a little too quickly, just hit the little gear button in the lower right corner of your screen, find playback speed, and slow me down to 0.75. then you should be able to keep up just fine. All right, with this one sheet of yellow here, we'll trim at 11 and then 10. And taking note that I stabilize on this clear bar before every cut and allow the trimmed pieces to pile up. And then 8. Stabilize again. And finally 6. Now rotate the 6-inch piece and trim at 8 and 4. Place 1 in pocket 3 and 4, 1 in 5 and 6, and the last one in 7 and 8. And then grab the 2 strips next in the stack, should be the same size, and they both go in 1 and 2. And finally, we have 2 more narrow strips that are the same for pocket 3 and 4. We're already moving on to page 2 of our instructions, and I'll take 1 sheet of red and trim this at 9 3/4. So 9 plus 3 columns left. 1, 2, 3. Stabilize. And then 6. Rotate the 6x12 and trim at 8 and 4. All right, you've made 3 pieces that are the same, but just 2 of them are going to go in pocket 1 and 2, and the other one, 5 and 6. Take the next strip that fell. If you need to confirm, it's 3 3/4 inches wide. Place it horizontally in, and we'll cut at 11 1/4, 8 1/2, and 5 3/4. All right, this larger piece in the base of your trimmer now, that goes in 3 and 4. And then you have 2 rectangles that are the same, or should be anyway. Those go in 3 and 4. And believe it or not, even this little guy goes in 3 and 4. The next strip, rotate it horizontal, and we'll cut at 9 3/4, 6 1/2, 3 1/4. The piece in your trimmer right now, pocket 1 and 2. The next one in 3 and 4. And the last 2, which are different in size, 7 and 8. Next up, we're moving on to this beautiful blue, and this is such a gorgeous paper. You're gonna wanna stock up on this one while it lasts. Really special stuff. All right, we're gonna trim this at 11 3/4. Don't be alarmed by the huge number here. It's almost to the 12. And then 11 1/2, 10 1/4, 7 1/4, and 3 3/4. So this is a little bit more advanced trimming here. I saved it for the 4th sheet instead of, I didn't start you out on this. Now rotate this piece so it's horizontal, the one that you just created that's in the base of your trimmer. Cut at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. You have 3 squares, pocket 7 and 8, and then you have the little guy that fell from the end. We're using him in 5 and 6. Pick up the next strip. We'll trim horizontally at 9 1/2, 7, and 3 1/2. All right, this gives you 2 squares that are the same for pocket 5 and 6, and then 2 rectangles for pocket 3 and 4. The next strip, if you need to confirm, it's 3x12. We'll trim into squares, all right, on numbers divisible by 3. So I'm here to sharpen your math skills. All right, we're starting at 9, and then 6, and 3. One of these squares goes in pocket 7 and 8. There are 3 more for pocket 3 and 4. Now you have this wider strip and 2 really skinny strips. All of them go in 7 and 8. Not too bad. We've arrived at our Cutaparts. So if you know what you're doing, you just go ahead to the next step. And while I explain that for my newbies here, you'll want to remove the paper outside of the corner cutting guides. And that's your cutting guide right there. So my goal is to kind of align that mark with my trimmer blade. But when the piece is at the size it's at right now, I can't really see the edge of the blade at the bottom and the top simultaneously. So when I make that first cut, I usually make it on the generous side and go back and clean it up later. Then rotate and make another cut. Lining up at the top and bottom, you can look at the edge of the silver blade on your trimmer base. Get that as good as you can. And then rotate again. Realign with those marks. It helps to have good lighting. Maybe your reading glasses. Now in this rotation, I can look at the 12 over here. Verify my alignment here, it looks good. And one last cleanup cut now, because I'm back to where I started. And you can see it's just a really tiny little piece that I took off to finish up. Throw those away, those little scraps. And now we're back to trimming. Now rule of thumb here is that the narrowest pieces need to be on the right side and fall off the trimmer first. Okay, so let's do that with green on the right. We will start at 11 1/4. Then 10 1/2, 8 3/4, 6 1/4, and 3 1/2. All right, this lovely strip here, pocket 7 and 8. And now we have this strip that requires some more trimming. Make sure the little houses are on the right. And we'll go at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. Okay, you have a bunch of squares and a little guy. The best journey always takes us home, and the sailboat. Both of these go in 3 and 4. Nothing soothes the soul, 7 and 8. This life is more beautiful, 3 and 4, and the little row of houses, 7 and 8. I'm in love with cities I've never been to and people I've never met, 5 and 6. And then these, this one, make it count, 1 and 2. And you have 2 strips of green. One has a title on it. They both go in 3 and 4. And we're ready to finish up our trimming with our very last sheet of Cutaparts. So again, I'll look at that little guide and do my best to get it close, but not worrying too much about it having it perfect. Then rotate. This time I can see top and bottom, the very tippy edge of my blade. Rotate. Get that trim in there. Rotate again. I can look at my 12. Looks pretty good. And one last cleanup cut. Here are my little scraps for the garbage. And let's make sure, again, those border strips are on your right. We'll trim at 11. Make sure that blade's all the way up. Sometimes that happens where it's not up and then you can't get the paper flush at the top edge here. 10. 8 3/4, 7, and 4. Rotate so that peaceful is on your right. We'll cut at 10 and 6. This piece, pocket 1 and 2. The round one, 7 and 8. Peaceful, 3 and 4. Grab this next strip here. We've got our journaling prompt tag on the right. Trim at 10 and 8 and 6. Okay, this one here, 5 and 6. The next piece has, it's a tag shape, but it's not, it's a tag print, but not quite a tag shape. I like to use my trimmer to finish off that shape just by nipping off those corners. So this one with the seagull, it's horizontal, pocket 1 and 2. And just to show you how quick it really can be, you don't really need to take a lot of time with this. This one is 7 and 8. And our third and final tag. I just like this. This is so clever how you can turn just a regular little piece of paper into a tag. This goes in 3 and 4. This cute little border with the seagulls, 1 and 2. Now we have some trimming to do on this guy. Now I'm gonna leave these 3 pieces together and keep them on the right. And so we'll place it in all the way at 8 1/4. Then 7. Then 5 3/4. And 4 1/2. Okay, life is lovely. That's 5 and 6. Then you have these 3 little squares. Those go in 5 and 6 also. Now, if you happen to have a circle punch, that's going to come in handy for these 3 guys. It's a pretty standard item for most. It's a 1-inch circle here, so just pop him out. And that little last sailboat here. Pop that out. Okay, now the standing seagull, 7 and 8, and the flying seagull, 3 and 4, and the sailboat, 1 and 2. Okay, now we have these final strips. One of them goes in 7 and 8. It doesn't really matter which one, and the other in 5 and 6. All right, I'm gonna get rid of my only scraps from this entire project so far are these triangles from the tags. I'm pretty impressed, gotta admit, thought that was great, no scraps. All right, before we move our trimmer out of the way, make sure that you support your accordion pocket file, because remember the trimmer was holding it upright for us and we don't want it falling on the floor. That would be very frustrating and disturbing. Okay, then you have this remaining stack of papers left. So the way I have this sorted is for you to take the entire stack and place it on your table to the left of the center. Look, this is my center. And then take this top sheet and slide it over, and that gives me the base for layouts 7 and 8. Now why 7 and 8? Because we're going to build these pages from the back to the front without adhesive, and then you can go on your own and adhere them from front to back. It's the way I do it all the time. It works beautifully. I've been doing it for decades now. So I'm going to grab the pocket labeled 7 and 8, take everything out of it, even the little circle we just put in there. Maybe I'll put him aside. And I like to distribute the pieces onto the page from my left hand and use my right hand to distribute, and swap that out if you are a lefty. Okay, it's just kind of a little bit more efficient to do it this way rather than picking up the pieces off the tabletop. Now let's begin with this, get rid of this really large piece, and we'll place that in the lower left corner of the left page, that yellow base, and then flank it both above and below with the tiny little navy blue strips. I call those paper ribbons. Now you should have some blue squares. So I know I'm covering up the sun. I apologize. It's a cloudy day. It's a cloudy day in the harbor. And we'll spread these across the top here. Then you'll have a blue strip that's kind of wider, and then that's going to nest with our cute little printed strip here. Next, take a green mat, and you can put 2 of them on this side. You should have 3 in there. And the third one is just vertically here and nested with some yellow. Give it a double whammy. And I used the little village here. And then you should have a larger red and then a red square. Now the larger red is nested with this journaling prompt. So you can, once again, go back and clip the little corners of the red tag and then pop a slot into it, add ribbon, super fun. Here we have our little round item. You can cut this with scissors, or you can just use your favorite thin cutting die or gigantic punch if you have one, totally up to you, or just leave it as it is. Then you have Nothing Soothes the Soul nested with the blue, and then you can place that up here. Now, what's the story on this guy? Well, the way I work these guys is I use my bookbinding glue and just dispense that into the bottle cap Doesn't take a lot. And then just pop in my little cute seagull guy. You should fit really well in there. And then take one of the epoxy dots. There might be a film on the top, so remove that to expose the individual dots and just place it right on top of the seagull. Isn't that cute? And he's gonna go with this round shape over here on the left. At this point, I'm gonna show you some of the finishing touches for these pages. Let's see. On the right side, I added 3 yellow enamel dot stickers. Those are included right in your kit. And I like to add them with the tip of a craft knife. That usually works really well. I pick it up with the tip and I move it on over here. And you can see it now. I've clipped the corners and just stapled some of the twill, the red twill from the collection, onto the tag. Then here I've added this with foam adhesive, and I also used a craft knife to cut a slot so I could slide the tag behind the greenhouse. Now that's a completely optional thing. Not sure I love it, but it is kind of a cute little corner embellishment there. So that's your option with that. And you know, don't bother with it if you don't have a lot of confidence or comfort with a craft knife. Don't worry about it. Now on this side, I added a little visual texture here by putting a line of glue just above the narrow blue strip, and I added the blue cord. Looks really nice, kind of like a line on a boat, and love that look. Here I used my thin cutting die with the quilted edge to trim my circle. I'll grab the measurement on that for you here, and that's gonna be 4 inches. That was a 4-inch circle die. Everything else is very straightforward on these 2 pages. So set them aside. And now for you, I'm gonna have you pick up just the yellow paper and slide it over to the right. And then grab the next sheet, slide that on top. And that automatically sets you up for pages 5 and 6. How great is that? So we'll have to go ahead and empty this pocket. I'm gonna start out with this strip down here, about 1 inch or so off the bottom. And then a vertical piece that has the journaling prompt on it and everything. A yellow photo mat. And then there should be 2 blue squares. And then you have your squares in the corner. So you've got a house that's green, a house that's, oh, you got some trees, and then you got the house that's red. And you have this little blue piece that's gonna kind of go here, and I'll show you more about that in just a moment. Okay, then over here, we're gonna take 1 red, 1 of this caption here, and then 1 yellow. Life is lovely. That's gonna be tucked down over here. Now around this area, I'm gonna have a couple of these houses, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. If you care, let's see, I have the one with 4 windows and a square garage, one with the rounded garage, and then the narrower one right up over here, just kind of to complement those. And be mindful that too, you can heat emboss them, put clear embossing powder on them, and melt the color of your choice. You can leave them as is. You can paint them with gesso or any other color to complement this, whatever you're in the mood for. Now on this one, I just cut a little point into the bottom of this, and you can use scissors for this. Keep it simple. There you go. And all I kind of did a little fake where I placed the pieces so I could just see the bottom, and I can see this little blue peeking out here between the 2 and a little between those 2, and it fakes it. Okay, so it's a short little piece, but it does anchor those 3 pieces, which I really like. Taking a look now at the finished page here, we've got just a very simple piece. I didn't want to cover much of this up. It's just so pretty. And I kind of used this boat here as my guide for placement. So I guess these would have been a little lower. Okay, and then on this one, to accent, I added red enamel dot stickers right above the square of the house, 2 strips of the blue cord, and then everything else just very straightforward. If you're wondering what I used to adhere the woodcuts, it was just the bookbinding glue, the Club Scrap bookbinding glue in a needle tipped applicator on the back of the house before I added those in. Very straightforward, shouldn't take you a whole lot of time. And then next I'm gonna pick up this red, just 1 sheet, slide it on over and grab 1 sheet of the green. Nice heavyweight stock. And then reverse your way in the instructions to page 3 for layouts 3 and 4. And of course that leads me to empty the pockets labeled 3 and 4. Quite a bit of stuff in here compared to the one we just did. Felt like there was almost nothing in that one, but yet the layout is still very lovely, I think. Okay, here we go. We're gonna take the piece that has the little gray mountain. That's gonna go flush with the right edge. There's our sunshine again. I think we're gonna cover it. And then the other piece with the red lighthouse over here on the left. Next up, I'll add a strip of yellow right next to this piece. And then the other one's gonna be horizontal. We can adjust the height in a minute. And then we'll nest that with the green, which ties in perfectly with the base of the page. And it gives us some nice transitions. Okay, let's begin with those larger blue mats. All right, we got this one vertically here, and then the strip will go right beneath it. And then the other two are gonna be horizontal, right in this department over here, overlapping into the print. Okay, then we're gonna fit this yellow right here into this lower corner and nest that with the red. Let's see, there should be a blue square. It's gonna be a couple of them. One of them is gonna go here and nest with the sentiment, this life is more beautiful when we are together. And then 2 more blue squares will be placed right here. And those should, you know, together equal the height of the blue. And then one will get the sailboat and one will get the lighthouse. Then kind of on top of that, there's gonna be a skinnier red that nests with the seagull journaling prompt. There will be 2 smaller blue that are gonna be kind of tilted and vertical in this lower right corner. 2 smaller red over here in the left corner. You've got your little flying seagull that's gonna get matched with the bottle cap in that same method with the epoxy sticker that I showed you before. Here on this red, we're gonna snip, snip, and glue, glue. It's gonna go right over here to provide an anchor for our final house. And then this bad boy should fit right down in there perfectly. Now be mindful, we have quite a few images in this. We have a lot of homes for pictures as well. If you want to add more pictures to these Cutaparts, go for it. But what's nice about having them on there is if you lack the quantity of pictures for the layout, we got you covered for that as well. It looks really thoroughly complete and well embellished. All right, now for the finished pages here, we've got some equally spaced enamel dot stickers. I alternated between blue and red, and I used my grid ruler to help keep things level. Let's see, I'll show you that. I think I might have even centered it onto this. Yes, and I added it at 5, at 3.5, and at 2, and at 0.5, and then at 5. So they're kind of really nicely spaced with the help of that grid ruler. And slot punch here, twill threaded through, wrapped around at the back. Attach this with foam adhesive. This I believe I just used my standard adhesive for this to attach this to the page. And then on that facing page, very simple, straightforward, glue everything down. Here I added an enamel dot next to the house. Pretty simple. Now I'll pick up the base of layout 3 here and slide it onto page 4, and then just pick up this last sheet of blue to expose the final base for layouts 1 and 2. I'll grab everything out of this little pocket, and that's the nice part about having them. And a couple of members even mentioned they have a few of them. If they have projects in progress, then they can do multiple things at the same time. Okay, so one of the yellow strips, the wider one, goes about a ½ inch from the edge there and gets nested with this vertical border strip. Now we're gonna reflect that onto the other page horizontally. So this goes down over here and nested with the make it count. So you will never have this day again, make it count. It's like a 2-part. Then 2 horizontal yellow mats for this spot, and there should be a pair of smaller red that nest right into those yellow mats. A vertical photo mat here nests with this guy, this cut apart image. Then 2 vertical tilted pieces over here. And what do we have left? A journaling prompt with a mat, lo and behold. And we have our bottle cap with our sailboat. Now let's take a look at those finished pages. We've got the green, that super soft velvety green placed across the bottom here. Then to that I just added a piece of green with a knot tied into it. I didn't tie it onto this. I wanted to keep it nice and flat. A couple of enamel stickers in light blue here. And then we have our sailboat and the bottle cap. Here I used the slot punch. If you don't have one of those, they're super handy. After I cut the corners of the red, I slotted the tag and then threaded it with the twill wrapped around to the back. On the facing page, again, very straightforward, the enamel dot stickers and stretch some of the green ribbon across. So simple. All right, that's the wrap. We've finished up our Harbortown page kit. All that's left for you to do now is get out your favorite adhesive, start sticking everything down, and dream about what pictures you're going to place on these pages. I can picture the colors here. It's telling me, say Disney could work really well with this. Any trip, a cruise perhaps, maybe something of the Norwegian fjords. It would be really pretty with this. Or even Alaska, or anything out in the backyard, an outdoor wedding, I don't know. Whatever you have going on, trip to the beach, whatever. I think this kit's going to be very neutral for you, and those bright, beautiful colors will complement anything. If you have a second, just hit a thumbs up here on this video. Maybe leave me a comment, tell me something you learned, or just say hello. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you in another Page Kit workshop soon. Have a good one.